A poor waitress heard the unmistakable sound of death approaching. Without thinking, she threw herself across a child she'd just served dessert to, taking multiple bullets meant for him. She thought it would be her final act. She didn't know it would be her awakening. The dinner rush at Bellissimo was finally winding down. Tracy Williams gripped the dessert tray with both hands, her fingers aching from the double shift as she navigated between white-clothed tables. 6 consecutive doubles had left her exhausted, the tips barely covering her mother's prescriptions, but she'd learned not to think about that. Just smile, serve, survive. She'd been working at the upscale Manhattan restaurant for 11 months. Long enough to recognize the rhythm of Friday nights. Businessmen ordering expensive wine. Couples celebrating anniversaries. The occasional family treating themselves to something special. But the man in the corner booth, tailored black suit, luxury watch catching the light, was different. Tracy approached with tiramisu for his son. The boy, maybe 8 years old, grinned up at her as she set the plate down. "Extra whipped cream," she said, winking. His father barely glanced up from his phone, but she caught the sharp intelligence in his eyes, the way everything around him seemed to slow when he moved. She should have walked away, should have headed to the kitchen like she'd been trained to do. In 11 months of service, the first rule had kept her employed. Don't linger. The boy's eyes met hers for just a second as he reached for his spoon. Bright, innocent, excited. Then the windows exploded. Glass erupted inward like a crystal storm. Armed men poured through, weapons raised. The sharp, unmistakable sound of safeties clicking off. Screaming erupted from every direction. "Berardo!" The father's roar cut through the chaos, trying to shield his son. But he was too slow. Everything was too slow. Tracy's body moved before her brain caught up. No thought, no hesitation. Just pure instinct snapping into focus, with crystal clarity. She lunged across the table, wrapping herself around the small body as gunfire erupted. The first bullet hit like a sledgehammer to her spine. It felt like someone had swung a baseball bat into her back, massive blunt force radiating outward in waves of shock. She heard herself gasp, but her arms tightened around the boy instinctively. The second bullet punched through her shoulder. The third hit lower, near her spine. The fourth, she didn't feel where it landed. Everything had gone white-hot and distant at the same time. Tracy was aware of collapsing, of pulling the boy down with her, of tucking his head against her chest. She was aware of more gunfire, much louder now, coming from different directions. She was aware of the boy's terrified breathing against her collarbone. She was aware that he was still breathing. "The boy," she whispered as hands grabbed her. "Is the boy okay?" Then darkness. "Hey, my beautiful family. I've truly missed all of you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for sticking with me. Your love and support mean everything." If you're excited for today's story and ready to soak it all in, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And drop a comment letting me know where you're tuning in from. Tomorrow, I've got another captivating story lined up for you, and believe me, you won't want to miss it. Now let us begin. Marcelo Sabbatini had orchestrated hits across 3 continents. He'd built an empire on fear and precision. But kneeling on Bellissimo's blood-soaked floor, staring at the unconscious woman sprawled across his son, he felt something he hadn't experienced in 25 years, complete incomprehension. And something else. Something dangerous. She was beautiful, even covered in blood. Dark hair fanned across the hardwood, delicate features slack with unconsciousness. The white apron, now crimson, emphasized her narrow waist. And the way she'd covered Berardo, protecting him with her own body, made something primal stir in Marcelo's chest. "Mine," a voice whispered. "She saved what's mine. She's mine now." He shoved the thought away. This was tactical. Nothing more. "Papa." Berardo's voice was barely a whisper. "Papa, I can't, she's heavy." Marcelo carefully lifted the woman, and his hands spanned her waist almost completely. So small, so fragile. Yet she'd thrown herself into gunfire without hesitation. 4 entry wounds across her back and shoulders. She should be dead. Her eyes fluttered open. Warm brown, glazed with pain but focused on him with surprising clarity. "The boy," she whispered. "Is the boy okay?" Then her head lolled to the side. Something fierce and possessive surged through Marcelo. He'd never let anyone take what belonged to him. And somehow in that moment she became his. "Get the car," he snapped at Dino.
"Now."
He scooped her into his arms. She weighed almost nothing and carried her through the restaurant's back exit. Her blood soaked through his shirt, warm against his chest. Berardo scrambled after them, clutching her torn apron. The private medical facility was 15 minutes through Manhattan. Marcelo climbed into the back of the armored SUV, cradling her against him. Her head rested in the crook of his neck. He could feel her pulse, threadbare but fighting. "Stay," he commanded silently, as if she could hear him. "You're mine now. You don't get to leave." While Dr. Giona Pinto prepped emergency surgery, Dino appeared with her belongings. A worn purse. The contents spread across the table like evidence. Medical bills for Margaret Williams, stage 4 cancer. A pay stub showing $2.15 per hour plus tips. A bus pass. A cracked phone. At the bottom, a photo, her and an older woman, both smiling at a beach somewhere. Before everything fell apart. "She's nobody," Marcelo said slowly, touching the photo. "Just a waitress with a sick mother." "Then we have a problem," Nestor Trentino said from the doorway. "She's a witness. She needs handling." "Handling." Marcelo's voice dropped to a register that had made men beg for mercy. "You know what I mean, boss.
Clean.
Quick." "No," Berardo's shout echoed. "She jumped on me, Papa. She didn't even know us. She just jumped." Marcelo stared at his son, then at the photo, then at the operating room where a woman fought for her life because she'd valued Berardo's existence over her own. And he made a decision that would change everything. "She's under my protection. Anyone who touches her answers to me." But even as he said it, Marcelo knew protection wasn't all he wanted. Not anymore. Tracy woke to silk sheets and the scent of expensive cologne lingering in the air.
Wrong.
All wrong. Her eyes opened to a ceiling of cream panels and chandelier lighting. The walls were dove gray. Medical equipment beeped softly, but the room looked like a luxury hotel suite. Then she saw the boy, asleep in a leather chair, blood-stained shirt, dark curls across his forehead. The door opened. The man from the restaurant walked in, now in a fresh charcoal suit that emphasized his broad shoulders and narrow waist. He moved with predatory grace, and when his dark eyes landed on her, Tracy felt heat flood her cheeks despite the situation. He was devastatingly handsome, dangerous, and looking at her like she was a puzzle he intended to solve. "You're awake." His voice was deep, accented. "My name is Marcelo Sabbatini." The name meant nothing to her. "Where am I?" "My private facility." He moved closer, and Tracy's pulse spiked. 3 nights ago, you saved my son from an assassination attempt. Do you remember? The windows, the gunfire, covering the boy. Her chest tightened. "You're a criminal." "Yes." No hesitation. No apology. "Oh, God." She reached for the 4. "I need to leave. My mother will die alone if you walk out that door." His voice was calm, but absolute. The Trevisan family orchestrated that attack. "They know your face, your name. If you leave my protection, you're dead within hours." "Then let me go anyway." Tears burned her eyes. "My mother is dying alone right now because of this." Marcelo's expression flickered, something almost like pain, but his voice remained steady. "I'm sorry, but that's not an option." Voices erupted outside. Dino and Nestor, arguing about the liability. Marcelo's jaw tightened. He opened the door to face them. "Explain what you mean by handling her." "Boss, she's a witness too. If you hurt her, I'll never forgive you." Berardo's shout. "Never, Papa." Marcelo looked at his son, then at Tracy, then back at his men. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of an empire. "She's under my personal protection. Anyone who touches her answers to me." After they left, he turned back to Tracy. "You're safe here. I don't want your protection. But even as she said it, Tracy felt the pull. The way his presence filled the room. The intensity in his eyes when he looked at her. Too bad. His lips curved slightly, not quite a smile, but close. Because you have it anyway. And despite everything, the fear, the confusion, the impossibility of it all, Tracy felt something shift inside her chest. Something dangerous. The daisies appeared on Tracy's third morning. Berardo had picked them himself, arranging them carefully in a crystal vase. "They're happy flowers," he explained, climbing into his usual chair. "The nurse said you needed happy things." Over the next week, Berardo became her constant companion. He did homework at the foot of her bed, brought her books, told her stories about school. And slowly, Tracy's fear began to transform into something else. Affection. Connection. A maternal instinct she didn't know she possessed. But it was Marcelo who occupied her thoughts at night. He visited every evening, bringing her favorite foods without asking how he knew. Sitting in the chair Berardo vacated, keeping a careful distance, but close enough that she could smell his cologne. They talked about everything except the obvious. She learned he'd built his empire from nothing. That he'd lost his wife in childbirth. That Berardo was everything to him. "Why did you jump?" he asked one night, voice low in the dim room. "I told you. I didn't think. I don't believe you." He leaned forward, elbows on knees, eyes intense. "I've seen soldiers hesitate in combat. But you didn't. You saw my son, and you moved. Why?" "Because he's a child." Tracy's voice trembled. "Children should be safe. Even my child?" Something raw in his tone. "Even the son of a man like me? Especially him." She met his gaze. "He deserves better than this world you've built." Marcelo stared at her for a long moment. Then, slowly, he reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. His fingers grazed her cheek, leaving fire in their wake. "You're extraordinary," he whispered. Tracy's breath caught. "I'm just a waitress."
No.
His thumb traced her jawline, gentle despite the calluses. "You're so much more than that." The air between them crackled. Tracy's heart hammered. This was insane. He was a criminal. A mafia boss. Dangerous in every possible way. But when he looked at her like that, like she was precious, like she mattered, she couldn't remember why that should stop her from feeling this pull. "Marcelo," she breathed. He stood abruptly, putting distance between them.
Rest.
"You need to heal." But as he walked to the door, he looked back. "Tracy." "Yes. Thank you. For saving him. For being—"
He paused.
"For being you." After he left, Tracy touched her cheek where his fingers had been, feeling the warmth still lingering. This was dangerous. But she was starting not to care. The attack at 3:15 a.m. changed everything. Trevisan soldiers breached the facility. Tracy and Berardo huddled in the panic room, watching guards die on monitors. When Giona Pinto fell protecting them, Berardo buried his face in Tracy's shoulder, sobbing. "Shh," Tracy whispered, stroking his hair despite her own terror. "It's okay. Your father will come."
And he did.
Marcelo arrived like vengeance incarnate, cutting through Trevisan soldiers with cold precision. When he finally reached the panic room, his eyes found Tracy first, scanning her for injuries with an intensity that stole her breath. "Are you hurt?" He crossed to her in 3 strides, hands framing her face, tilting it to check for wounds. "I'm fine. We're both fine." His thumb brushed her cheekbone. "If they touched you." But they didn't. Danilo Trevisan's voice crackled through the intercom. "The girl dies, or your son does. Your choice." Marcelo's jaw clenched. His hands slid from Tracy's face to her shoulders, grip tightening. "No one chooses. I'll burn his entire family to ash before I let anyone take what's mine." The possessiveness in his tone should have frightened her. Instead, he pulled low in Tracy's stomach. "Marcelo, you're mine to protect." His eyes burned into hers. "Do you understand?" "Mine." Tracy nodded, unable to speak around the emotions clogging her throat. In the aftermath, surrounded by bodies and blood, Marcelo's empire teetered. But he never wavered. Find every Trevisan safe house, he ordered. End this. They fought in the garden a week later. Tracy, stronger now, demanded her freedom. Marcelo, equally stubborn, refused. I can't live in your world. You can't survive outside it. Then what do you want from me? Tracy's voice broke. Why won't you just let me go? Marcelo closed the distance between them in 2 steps, crowding her against a stone column. You want to know what I want? His hands caged her in, palms flat against the stone on either side of her head. Tracy's pulse hammered. Up close, she could see the gold flecks in his dark eyes, smell his cologne mixed with something uniquely him. Tell me, she whispered. I want you safe. I want you here, where I can protect you. I want, his control cracked. I want you to stop looking at me like I'm the villain when all I'm trying to do is keep you alive. You're the villain, Marcelo. In every story you're. Then why do you look at me like that? His voice dropped to a growl. Why does your breath catch when I walk into a room? Why did you lean into my touch last week? Tracy's cheeks flamed. I didn't. You did. His face was inches from hers. And it's driving me insane, because I shouldn't want you this way. You're innocent.
Pure.
Everything my world destroys. But Christo, Tracy, I can't stop thinking about you. Her breath came in short gasps. This is insane. I know. We can't. I know that too. But he didn't move away. Tell me to leave. Tell me you don't feel this, and I'll walk away right now. Tracy opened her mouth. The lie should have come easily. But looking into his eyes, seeing the raw honesty, the vulnerability beneath the dangerous exterior, she couldn't do it. I can't, she whispered. Marcelo's control shattered. He kissed her like a man starving, hands sliding into her hair, tilting her head to deepen the kiss. Tracy melted into him, fingers clutching his shirt, feeling the hard muscle beneath. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Marcelo pressed his forehead to hers. Dio, he breathed. What are you doing to me? Tracy touched his face, feeling the stubble rough against her palm. The same thing you're doing to me. Marcelo visited Tracy's mother in secret. Margaret Williams showed him photos of the daughter he was falling for college graduation, engagement, happy times before tragedy struck. My Tracy has the biggest heart, Mrs. Williams said. Who's going to take care of her when I'm gone? I will, Marcelo promised, and meant it with everything he had. He paid all her medical bills anonymously, sat in his car having an existential crisis, called his estranged mother for the first time in a decade. When he returned home, Berardo was waiting. Is Miss Tracy's mama okay? She's sick, son. But you helped, because you care about Miss Tracy. Berardo's knowing look was too old for 8. You love her, don't you, Papa? Marcelo wanted to deny it. Should have denied it. Yes. Good. Berardo smiled. She needs someone to love her. And you need someone to love you back. Out of the mouths of babes. When Nestor betrayed them and Danilo kidnapped Tracy, Marcelo stopped thinking like a strategist and started acting like a man protecting what he loved. He arrived at the warehouse prepared to trade his life for hers. Berardo, hidden in his car, followed because the boy understood what his father was only beginning to accept. Some things were worth dying for. Danilo demanded Marcelo kneel. Acknowledge weakness. Destroy his reputation. Marcelo began to comply. Don't you dare. Tracy's shout stopped him. Don't you dare destroy yourself for me. But Marcelo kept lowering. You're worth it. Marcelo, no. I love you. The words escaped before he could stop them, spoken in front of enemies and cameras and his son. Ti amo, Tracy Williams. So yes, I'll kneel.
I'll beg.
I'll destroy everything I've built if it means keeping you alive. Tracy's eyes filled with tears. You don't mean that. I've never meant anything more. The FBI raid interrupted before he could finish. In the chaos, Marcelo grabbed both Tracy and Berardo, shielding them with his body as bullets flew. Run, he ordered. Not without you, Tracy said fiercely. So they ran together, a Mafia boss, a waitress, and a boy, disappearing into the night. But love wasn't enough to overcome reality. The Trevisan family would never stop hunting. Tracy would never be safe in Marcelo's world. "I'm giving you a new identity," he said, voice carefully controlled as he presented the Elena Rossi folder. "A new life in Oregon."
No.
Tracy's voice broke. "I don't want a new life. I want this one. With you. With Berardo." "Tracy, I love you." She grabbed his shirt, pulling him close. "I love you, and you love me, so we'll figure this out together." "I can't risk you." His hands covered hers. "Every day you're with me is a day you could die." "I can't," his voice cracked. "I can't lose you that way." "So you'll lose me by sending me away? At least you'll be alive." They stood in his office, foreheads pressed together, both crying for the future they couldn't have. "One night," Tracy whispered. "Give me one night before I disappear forever." Marcelo knew he shouldn't. Knew it would make leaving harder. But he was only human. He kissed her like she was oxygen. Carried her to his bedroom. Made love to her with a tenderness that belied his reputation, whispering Italian endearments against her skin, memorizing every gasp and sigh. Afterward, holding her in the dark, he whispered, "In another life, you'd be my wife. Berardo would call you Mama. We'd have more children. A real family." Tracy traced his jaw. "In this life, I'm yours for tonight. Let that be enough." But it wasn't. It would never be enough. 3 years later, Elena Rossi stood in her Oregon classroom, teaching third graders about kindness, when the package arrived. Inside, a photo of Berardo at 11, graduating elementary school. Taller, confident, kind. And behind him, barely visible but unmistakable, Marcelo. Older, grayer at the temples, but still devastatingly handsome. The note was brief. "He's good. He's going to be better than me. Thank you for everything.
Ti amerò sempre. M."
Tracy, Elena, walked to the beach, photo clutched tight. She'd built a life here. Dated a nice teacher named David. Almost moved on. But seeing Marcelo's face, even in the background of a photo, made her heart clench with longing that hadn't faded in 3 years. She never saw the man watching from a distance. Marcelo, who'd flown across the country just to see her one more time. To make sure she was happy. Safe. Thriving.
She was.
And it both healed and destroyed him. In Manhattan, Berardo asked, "Did you see her, Papa?" From a distance. Was she happy? Yes. Good. Berardo squeezed his father's hand. She deserves happy. And someday, maybe we can give it to her properly. Marcelo looked at his son, wise beyond his years, kind despite their world. Tracy had changed them both forever. Someday, he agreed. When the threat is gone. When I can give her the life she deserves. How long? However long it takes. Because some debts could never be repaid. Some love never died. And Marcelo Sabbatini was nothing if not patient. He'd wait. He'd eliminate every threat. He'd build a world where Tracy could return. And when he finally held her again, he'd never let go. The doorbell rang on a quiet Sunday morning. Tracy, she'd finally reclaimed her real name, opened it to find Marcelo standing there in jeans and a simple black shirt. No guards. No weapons. Just a man holding flowers. "The Trevisan family is gone," he said simply. "Disbanded. No threat remains. I'm here to ask." He dropped to one knee. "Tracy Williams, will you come home? Will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life making up for the years I stole?" Behind him, Berardo, now 13, grinned hopefully. Tracy looked at the man she'd never stopped loving. The boy she'd saved who'd saved her in return. The family she'd never stopped wanting. "Yes," she breathed. 1,000 times yes. When Marcelo kissed her, it felt like coming home. And finally, they got their happy ending. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe and be part of a community that cherishes unforgettable tales like this one. Your support means more than you know. It fuels the creation of even more stories that speak to the heart. So, whether you're watching from your TV or your phone, take a moment to join us. Every like, every subscription, Every share helps us continue bringing these stories to life. Thank you for being a part of this journey.